address Mr. Pasquarello. We all heard what you said, two of us. Solicitor, would you care to comment on that?
I'm not going to, I don't recall exactly what was said by the planner. I did not see specifically who made what comments. I did hear some, and it sounded like there was profanity. That's all.
Okay. Well, I can attest that there was profanity addressed to this mayor.
You got that from the source, or you got it?
I'm saying I got it directly from me that you addressed the mayor with profanity, and that's like this. So Mrs. Stanton's going to talk about minor things. Let's get back on track here to the real problems.
Mayor,
Also,
if I may, please,
yes.
if I may, sitting here, I noticed that Mr. Williams is carrying a firearm on him, and being on council, I don't feel right with the councilman sitting up here with a firearm on him. I don't know if you all feel the same way, that I don't think the council should at the council table with a firearm strapped to his chest. I'm sorry.
You want to fight the Second Amendment?
Well, I'm not gonna ask, I'm just saying, I'm just asking. You know.
I would like, if you guys would like for Ms. Carrie or open carry.
Yeah, I do. For the record.
I mean, you feel that threatening, you have to have a firearm?
Well,
He's addressing you.
I don't have to answer him.
You don't if you don't want to.
I got a Second Amendment right, I got a permit, I answered the solicitor.
That's fine. And also to address your particular ordinance, Mr. Williams, I can't speak for other council members, but if there was a request to have a special meeting to address the carpeting that may not be due till next year, this mayor probably wouldn't have been present just for that, so I can't speak for other council.
But again, since you're speaking to that.
I am speaking into myself.
You read the correspondence from Crown dated the 8th. They stated to be in 20 days to notify.
That's right, 20 days, and we'll see how we vote on that.
Today is the
Well,
20th day.
and we'll vote on that.
Call for the agenda, Mayor.
Yes, moving on. Agenda items, please.
As we said, we are submitting proposed operating budget and capital budget for Frank Pasquarello Conference Center for the fiscal year 2016. In accordance with subsection 302 of the above referenced agreement, the proposed operating budget and capital budget are being submitted for your approval, which approval shall be deemed granted if you do not indicate your approval or disapproval within 20 days of receipt of the budget. If you have any questions, call me, Michael Beretta. That budget was in 2015, well before us, was for $115,000. All right. July 8th of this year, letter from Michael Barletta, July 8th. Attention, Melissa Comar, interim city manager. Pursuant to section 302 of the lease agreement dated May 8, 2003, as amended by December 13, 2007, we submit the enclosed operating budget, capital budget for the Frank J. Pasquarello Conference Center for the fiscal year ending 2016. This was submitted to the city on November 24, 2015. In accordance with the subsection 302, the above reference amendment agreement approval shall be deemed granted if the city does not indicate or approval within 20 days of receipt of the budget. Today is the 20th day, okay? There's further correspondence that states that Crown has submitted their capital budget for the years ending December 31st, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. Not this council, but 5 members of this council, with the exception of maybe Mr. Vidovich, some other ones, ignored those requests. So I'd sooner have a root canal than pay for carpet at the convention center. But if it's in their agreement, the city should pay it. Thank you.
Thank you for the response. My only concern was perhaps if you didn't attack Mr. Pasquarello, he wouldn't have submitted a bill in the first place.
Sorry?
Perhaps if you wouldn't have attacked him with the convention center, that's my understanding, he would not have submitted the bill in the first place.
But he submitted November 24th, 2015. That came on here. Had nothing to do with the appraisal and a possible sale.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
You
Williams.
want a copy of that? Welcome to it.
I would like a copy.
And also, I'd like to comment too, I don't, you say that, he was attacking Mr. Pascarella. I don't think there's been any attacks, and you characterized in the beginning of your speech that, was it Mr. Williams and myself were mad? I don't think anybody's mad. I wouldn't use that word, I do find it troubling that, yeah, it's $115,000 that's requested, capital improvements. But again, this was noted in 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015, that the requests for the capital improvements were requested, and there was no response from council at that time. So are Mr. Williams and I responding now? Well, absolutely. You have a lease agreement. It's the law. Who would be in favor of violating the law?
Where are we going to get the money from, or what are we going to cut?
I think council probably should have maybe acted on it in 2012, 13, 14, and 15 when there was more money in the budget. And knowing that this has been ongoing for the past number of years, maybe spending should have been cut at the beginning of the year instead of spending money that we don't have.
I'm going to say my comments for the ordinance, but I would say, if we're going backwards, when the contract was first signed, it should have been scrutinized an awful lot more, because we're talking 15 years later, we're still not receiving rent, we're still not receiving this, and we now have another 5 years of that. So if we're going to throw blame out there, let's look at who passed the particular contract.
And let's follow up with that. Yes, I did. I voted in 2003 for that contract. The stipulation was said over and over that by 2007, we would be receiving something. I left council, was not a member of council in 2006 and 2007. So had I been there, I would have questioned it. And the other thing, this whole diatribe of us trying to break Crown's lease, the original resolution was for an appraisal for the possible sale. It didn't say that we was breaking any lease or going to sell it.
Thank you. 6.5 years before the lease went in.
5 is time.
Well, the year and a half plus 5, 6.5 in my book. So if we could move on then, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
This lease for the Crown Convention Center. I don't know if the solicitor has any input on this. I mean, this is something, this is all new to me since we brought up proposing to get an appraisal for the Crown Center. And even though the lease has been renewed for another 6 years, I still don't believe that there's anything in there that prohibits the city from actually selling it. I don't know, I'm wrong, please correct me. A new owner would just take over and have to abide with the terms of the current lease agreement. I just don't think, we won't know if we can sell it unless we actually try.
Well,
And I think the city's in
You're
a
out of
hard
order.
place.
She's speaking.
In a hard place right now between, you have this legal agreement, council knew about it for the past how many years, and just not acted on it, and just kept growing. Well, here we are again, where today's the deadline, and we have to go. You have a letter from the state DCED that says, the city is losing money with the Crown Convention Center. You need to renegotiate the terms of the lease. You're not getting any money in taxes. We could be getting about $90,000 a year in taxes. That would be a huge plus for the city. Plus to sell it, what would be the sale price on that? We won't know unless we actually try it. And I haven't heard anybody besides myself and Mr. Williams wanting to get an appraisal, wanting to sell. I haven't heard anything about renegotiating the lease. And I think as long as we're stuck with this lease, it's going to be a drain on the city because we're not getting 1 penny from it.
We're stuck with this because our predecessors signed almost an ironclad contract, basically. And this is a poor way to go about renegotiating it. So if we're going to sit at the table, then I think there should be that sit at the table. Rather, he said, she said, and right now we have a contract that was signed in 2003, and whoever can say, well, I didn't know this, it said in plain language, there was no guarantee after 3 years that we would ever collect rent. Something should have been put in that contract, and it wasn't. And that's what we're stuck with. So if we're going to renegotiate, then that should be something on a good faith thing rather than batting heads against each other.
Let me
My
ask this.
opinion.
Is there a way?
She has the floor.
Is there a way, and I'm sure there's a way, but I would like to see, since we were supposed to be responsible for all the improvements of capital
exception, contracted to do that. I'd like to see what actually was spent there in improvements and capital expenditures, to see what our liability would have been had we complied per the contract from day one. Because the way it stands now, we should have paid for everything that needed done over there from day one and still not get anything. So, I mean, I'm trying to find middle ground here.
I can answer my question.
Okay.
114,000.
114,000.
Why don't we do this, council? Why don't we just move into the ordinance? We can do our motions and then we can further discuss this at that time. Let's do that. I move that we read the ordinance for first read. Go
The
ahead.
whole purpose of this is trying to make Crown whole, okay? The language in our lease, right? Any discussions for renegotiating does not clear up the obligation they have now. And if they owe or owed other monies for other years, I strongly urge them to submit the bill.
If they owed money, I'm not losing control. What money would they owe us?
No,
It would be the opposite.
we owe them money, okay, for
Correct.
what Mrs. Monty said about
Yes.
over the years, other capital.
Well, you know, I understand that, Mr. Williams, but if somebody is going to assume the cost and not send us the bill, I'm grateful that somebody did that. I'm
Is it-
grateful,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm grateful that Crown didn't send us a bill for stuff that we obviously couldn't afford to do. And if they continue to do that, okay, well, that's fine. And we could have been on the hook for all this stuff, but the way I see it is they've never sent us a bill. Why, and if they're not gonna continue to send us a bill, I think we probably could have worked through this in an amicable way somehow without this.
I think that's what we need to
So
solicit.
does that mean that that binding agreement from 2003 is not, we can just sort of fluff it away?
You can always attempt to renegotiate.
No, what
It
she's
does not-
saying.
That does not alter what is in place currently within the agreement. You can always reach out to the party on the other side to address matters of that
And
nature.
if they don't submit a bill, they're not obligated to do it. They can say, no, don't worry about it. Is that okay for them to do that?
If you have that, you need to have that communication to
Yeah,
find
if
out.
there was that
It's a contract
communication.
between two parties, and that's the party that would assert breach if they believe there's a breach. If there's
Exactly.
something they're willing to negotiate, they can
If
negotiate.
both parties agree.
So most of us would accept that.
Yeah, so if they were okay with doing that, I appreciate the fact that they did that. But what I'm saying is, I think we should look at the fact that they did that, we should appreciate it, but then we should probably have looked at some point without blowing this thing out of the water all over the place, because right now.
We've
everybody-
discussed this long enough. Let's move to the ordinance and then we can move to discussion.
Call the question to an agreement?
Yes, that would be the best practice in manner
Right,
of
in other words,
addressing
if
it.
they're gonna say, don't pay this year, it would require some sort of executed addendum, correct?
Yes, that would be the best manner in which to address
And
it.
despite us all being outraged or however we feel, it's a contract that we have to deal with right now, one way or the other. So we can address it, or we can deal with it, as Mrs. Mock said, in another way. So moving on to the ordinance for first read. Bill 28 of 2016, amending ordinance number 5210, passed finally on June 28, 2016, titled, "An Ordinance Estimating the Amount of Revenues to be Received by the City of Johnstown from Various Sources and Appropriating Specific Sums Estimated to be Required for Specific Purposes for the Operations of the Various Funds, Bureaus, and Departments, and the Payment of Debt Service and Pension Fund Obligations of the City of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, for the calendar year beginning January 1, 2016, including the following City of Johnstown fund sections and the respective funds budget Exhibit A details to correct errors and omissions with the amending and final passage of ordinance number 5192 on December 22, 2015 by furthering amending Budget Exhibit A titled Capital Project Fund to comply with executed agreements with Crown Convention Centers Company Crown and Mark E. Pasquarella for the Convention Center and City of Johnstown lease agreement for funding of capital improvements in the amount of $115,000 for submitted carpet replacement. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Question.
Yes.
I'd like to say this, Mayor.
If this,
Yes.
I'd just like to say at this time, first of all, Mr. Pasquarello is not here this evening. I just want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I was elected here to this office. He has a business here in town. I just want to say that I think that what he's done for the city, he's done a lot. I think we should give him, you can laugh, Mr. Williams, but he has. We should give him the opportunity, as a gentleman, come in, sit down, and discuss anything in that lease either side wants to discuss.
He's not questioning.
Simple as that. That's all I have to say, Mayor.
All right, do we have any other questions
He's
or
not
comments?
questioning the lease, we're trying to, Mr. Sand and I are trying to make them whole. But the thing is, this 100,000, agreed that, we're still short 14,000 to meet the 100,000.
And that's the question, where are we getting that money
Can I
from?
make a suggestion? Would we be able to RFP for the carpeting to even see if we can get better numbers than this?
I don't think that's our prerogative, he has.
Well,
But if they're willing to work with us, that we can reach out, RFP for the carpeting, then bring those numbers back to council and see what true number we're working
Yeah,
with.
I'm
And not to
sorry.
mention, that letter is dated over a year ago. So who even knows if the 115,000 is a correct number?
Not a year ago, November 24th.
Well, let's talk of this as if it's a business. If you're looking at a business, you're not taking the first bid. So as Melissa's suggesting, why wouldn't we go back and say, we want 3 bids on that carpeting, and we want to write it, because we're the one that owned the building, correctly? So we negotiate with Crown American then to say, what's the best price? And guess what? If we go at the 50 and Crown American wants to spend 75, then we negotiate with them, or they pick the more quality or higher
I just feel we
quality.
should-
But I think that's a legitimate, logical, makes sense kind of thing to do.
But that's not what the lease agreement says. It says they submit their budget and capital to the city.
Call for the question, please.
Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah, call for the-
All right, let's call for a roll call. Roll call, please.
Mr. Nakavich?
No.
Mr. John Cola?
No.
Mrs. Moss?
No.
Mrs. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Vidovich?
No.
Mr. Bizek? No. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
That's defeated.
So now what we, just so for the record is, Crown and their attorney from Pittsburgh can file a breach of lease against 5 members of this council as of
No, what I'm suggesting is that we make a motion, and I'll make it, that we sit down and negotiate with Crown American, our solicitor and their
I'm talking about the
attorney.
motion we just went through.
The motion that was defeated, I'm talking about making a motion.
Okay, but I'm saying it by defeating that. Today is the 20th day from their submission. It's considered, okay?
They're free. But my opinion, and I can't speak for Crown American, of course, but I think they're more than willing to sit at the table and be reasonable.
Can you move on, please?
So basically, I'm making a motion that we do a request for proposal for 3 estimates on carpeting, and that we work in partnership with Crown American and let their legal and our solicitor work out the details. Do I have a second?
So you're, let me clarify. So you're asking them.
I'm making a motion.
The motion is asking them to amend their lease agreement.
No, I'm specifically asking them to look at this carpeting piece right here, to amend it possibly to consider. I don't think as a business person, we're obligated to just pay it because somebody said, here's the bill.
Maybe you should read the lease too.
Maybe you should get into business, because if you give me a bill, I'm gonna say, where's your other 2? And what's the best deal? I'm just not carte blanche gonna pay a bill because you gave it to me, Mr. Williams. That's not good business, and that's why we're in the predicament we're in.
I've been in business, okay? I
Now,
want
if you wanna share business, go ahead.
Uh,
So you don't think you wanna go there?
Any day,
Any day, Mr. Williams, I'll match you 1 for 1.
Can I give an opinion from the solicitor here? Here's the question. We have the lease agreement, and from my understanding, what I read, the lease agreement allows Crown to just submit a bill, $150,000 for the carpet. You have to pay it. Today's the deadline. If I hear no response, it's deemed approved, and we're going to get the carpeting. Now, as Mr. Mayor suggested, getting requests for proposals.
I think
for the
that's in Crown
carpeting.
American's hands right
Wait,
now,
I'm
not
still
yours or
talking.
mine.
I'm still talking, I'm trying to get an opinion from the solicitor.
Can you address it?
apparently you think it's in your hand because you're saying get bids, okay?
I had made a motion for council to make a vote on it. You interrupted me, so we'll wait till you're done.
Can I finish with Ms. Benjamin?
Sure.
Is the city legally allowed to say, well, obviously we defeated the carpet thing here tonight, but Crown will obviously go get the carpets tomorrow morning for $115,000, according to the letter from their legal group. Now, looking at the lease agreement Does it say anywhere that the city's allowed to say, well, we don't like your estimate for that, we want you to go get 3 more, we want to use ours, which understandably, yeah, it does not make any sense to say, yeah, we'll just take that first estimate. But I think the city is stuck according to the terms of the lease. There's nothing in there from what I read that allows the city to say, hey, go get some more estimates.
There is language within the lease agreements that references the city being able in its discretion to redact items out of the budget that's submitted by Crown. The issue arises in this instance more so with the letter that indicates if we don't hear anything back within 20 days, it's going to be considered accepted. So I do actually believe you have the ability to sort of line item cross things out and say we're not going to submit this in this budget at this time. What you have is a timing issue with respect to when they made a request and the effect of that timing.
Basically, that was by council not acting after getting that November 24th, 2015. They had 20 days from then
That was what the letter indicated.
to accept, to approve or disapprove. So that when council never responded, that 115,000 became due and payable under the lease agreement.
It indicated that Crown would consider it accepted and approved. That's what the letter indicates. That if you don't hear back from me, we're considering it approved under the lease agreement. And then the lease agreement provisions provide that that needs to be funded through that budget. Nothing in the lease agreement prohibits the parties from trying to work out something new that could be addressed in an addendum to the agreement bill either.
But then again, if somebody backs, if Crown says, never mind, it's okay, we'll take care of it, and we're in agreement to it, both parties agree, so they're really, it's a moot point.
If that can occur and you can execute it in a written addendum of some
Right.
sort, then yes, that can be the case.
We won't know that unless we discuss it.
Once we do it today.
And that discussion goes between the solicitor.
That discussion could occur between the solicitor and the attorney for Crown.
I just want to say that this whole discussion could have been handled very professionally and businesslike and not a 3-ring circus that it has become. It's unfortunate that a business item has to take this level of chaotic mess to get a point across, and guess what? We're going to funnel down to that point anyway. Why do we have to make it a circus to get down to really the way a business is supposed to handle things and the way contracts are supposed to be handling and the way negotiations on redoing a contract or modifying or doing whatever? That's a professional business way of handling it. This circus atmosphere here is ridiculous.
Why didn't you ask that question November 24th, 2015 when you
Because it wasn't a circus. Nobody said anything then. They were fine with it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this enormous mushroom cloud that is happening because of something that is going to be negotiated. I'm done.
Mayor, can I call a question on your motion?
Sure. You want to vote?
Yes. Mr. Business.
We're doing roll call. So, second?
Mr. John Cola?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
No.
We're voting on the motion
Or not?
for an RFP 3.
Oh, yes.
It also for the solicitor to reach out to.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
This is for 3 days.
3 estimates?
For the city to go.
Or to ask.
Yes.
We can work
We
together.
can work together. Solicitor can work with their attorney.
If it's rephrased, it just seems like you
I
have
understand.
something now.
Let's make it.
You have 3 estimates, now we're adding the solicitor into what?
No, we're asking for 3 estimates. You asked by who would be doing it. So the solicitors can work out the details on that. That's what we're paying the solicitor for and their attorney.
If we take a vote now on getting requests for proposals, isn't that another resolution that we would need? And we can't bring up a new resolution the same day.
I'll
I
make
asked
that
for a
motion.
question on the vote. We discussed this after the vote.
Yes.
No, you can't want to vote.
We had to vote. We looked at it. Mrs. Mock. You vote
Yes.
Mrs. Mock? Yes. Nancy?
Mr. John Cola still?
Yes.
No.
No, it was yes.
He was yes. Marie?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's a good answer.
Mrs. Stanton?
No.
Mr. Vidovich?
Yes.
Mr. Vizza?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mayor Janakis?
Yes.
I would ask the solicitor to determine what our legal obligations are under the capital expenditures, and also keep in mind in that agreement, the capital reserve account that the city is supposed to maintain.
And also comment, we heard some of our citizens speak how they're outraged at paying this. And tonight we just had 2 votes yes, and we're just going
I'd
to.
ask for a legal opinion of
Quick-
That was my comment.
Can I make a comment? And this is where the confusion lies. Okay, Mr. Williams, you brought this ordinance up that you said you want to comply to pay $115,000, and yet Mr. Mayor proposed a resolution to get 3 bids, which if it goes that way, we could possibly pay less, which is better for the budget, but you voted no.
Because it's not consistent with the agreement. It's not consistent.
With the agreement, it wasn't very good in the first place.
Makes sense to get 3 bids, so.
I just, if we may end up with
We're
20
trying to
bids.
change the
Do we have the vote on the motion, please? Let's move on. We could be here for another 2 hours. Bill 24, 2006.
Mr. Vidovich?
Yes.
Mr. Vizza?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Right.
Mayor Knapper?
Yes.
For clarification, Mayor, on March 22nd, Mrs. Stanton and I requested hard copies of the Act 47 Sixth Amended Recovery Plan. 4 months later, we're still waiting for it. Okay. Filed the right to know. I thought we mentioned this on July 13th. Okay, with Ms. Graff. Filed the right to know, and unfortunately, my willingness to wait, the time expired from the file.
Can we have a vote on the floor
The
here?
appeal.
Call for the question, please.
We finished on the,
No, we're not finished.
wait, so we need to read this and vote.
Mr. Donovan?
Yeah.
And that was on removed from the table? Okay, Bill 24, 2016, ordinance of the City of Johnstown, Cambria County, amending the City of Johnstown Sixth Amended Recovery Plan adopted on October 28, 2013 by updating the Act 133 compensation and benefits limitation through 2018. We are now voting on the ordinance.
So-
Questions, comments?
Once again,
I'm sorry,
we
we
are
have a
still
motion.
waiting for.
Second.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Call for the question.
Was there no discussion on?
Is there discussion or questions?
I have discussion too, and what Mr. Williams already said. For the Johnstown, this is a Sixth Amended Recovery Plan. Isn't it kind of imperative that every member of council receive this so they're aware of what the state DCED, what their recommendations, what their guidelines are? We want to move the city forward. How can anybody explain, while I'm assuming the rest of the council has the Sixth Amended Recovery Plan, why does Councilman Williams and myself, why do we not have that? That was requested in a letter, that March, we requested a letter that was sent to the solicitor, I believe, and to Mrs. Fillmore. We never got it, and as he just stated, he had to file right to know request, which seems ludicrous to have to file right to know request to get a Sixth Amended Recovery Plan as a member of council. Time elapsed, the appeal was denied. So here we are again, there's a vote up, trying to amend this Sixth Amended Recovery Plan. How can we even make an informed decision and vote on this? We don't even have the plan in front of us. So again, tonight, we're asking, this will maybe be the 4th time asking, can Councilman Williams and myself get a copy of this amended recovery plan? Or is it like top
And we
Uh,
secret
have our
information
Act
that we
47
can't have it?
coordinator. Deb, would you like to address that, please?
That recovery plan was put together by Edward Siemens, by the way.
Yes.
Please tell our Act 47 coordinator.
Yes, you're right. Eckerd Siemens was the recovery coordinator at the time. I was a sub to Eckerd Siemens, so I did the financial analysis piece of it. I believe that the plan was provided to all of council. We do have it in a PDF format, and I think 2 weeks ago, after I was here, I did provide it to Melissa and to Ms. Benjamin in a PDF format. Now, I have not produced hard copies. As you said, that was Eckerd Siemens' document, but I do have it in a PDF format, and it should be available to all of council.
Our request is for hard copies.
That's fine, I'll print it.
Call for the
And
question, please.
tonight is the first read, so we can always address that. Nancy, if you would, roll call on number
Thank
2.
you.
Mrs. Stanton?
President,
Mr. Vidovich?
Yes.
Mr. Vizza? Mr. Williams?
Present.
Mayor Knapper?
Yes.
Mr. John Cole?
Yeah.
Mrs. Moss?
yes.
Mrs. Grass and Solicitor, City Manager, will make sure that everyone on council receives that ASAP. All right, including making sure Mr. Williams and Mrs. Stamp get those paid out or it hasn't been sent. Resolution of Pennsylvania authorizing the interim city manager to sign all documents necessary to apply for funding assistance from the Pennsylvania Infrastructure Investment Authority in the amount of $10,900,000 to be used towards improvements to the inner-city sewer system in the Moxham Phase 2 area of the city of Johnstown. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Comments, questions? So this is to acquire almost $11 million to make application.
Yes. They're
Okay.
based through also from Lawn Street south to the
Nancy, if you would, roll call, please.
Mr. Vidovich?
Yes.
Mr. Bizza?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Present.
Mayor Janagos?
Yes.
Mr. John Fuller?
Yes.
Mrs. Moss?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanton?
Present.
So we have how many yeses and how many presents? Okay, thank you. Resolution of City Council of the City of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, authorizing the interim city manager to sign all documents necessary to execute facility encroachment agreements CSX 818603, CSX 819883, CSX 819884, CSX 819885, CSX 819886, CSX 819887, CSX 819888, and CSX 81889, and supplement amendment agreement BOL38479 with CSX Transportation Incorporated for a property located in Johnstown, Cambria County, Pennsylvania. Do I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? City Manager, could you just give us a brief?
This is a joint project with JRA. It's the Horner Street Interceptor Project, and these are different locations of the railway.
Any other questions? Not, roll call?
Mr. Bizza?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Present.
Mayor Janagos?
Yes.
Mr. John Fuller?
Yes.
Mrs. Moss? Yes. Mrs. Stanton?
Present.
We had no one put in for public comment and non-agenda items. Meeting adjourned. Remind everyone we have a 5 o'clock. Can we finish our conversation?
Well, that's just, somebody just want an overview where we are right now.
I'm sorry.
Is that what you're asking for? That's an overview?
Yes, yes. Since nobody submitted to me a specific agenda.
Yeah, I didn't get anything either, so. Well, no, as far as the report, we're operating under the consent order, and we did manage to come up with a plan that I think has been fair and equitable to all of the municipalities that we deal with. All 20 municipalities, they all got consent orders, they've all agreed, and we've agreed basically as to how the whole project of controlling and eliminating the overflow into the rivers was going to be, how it was going to go. There were a lot of ways that it could have gone. It could have gone, at first there was a question as to whether maybe we should try to contain it with tanks and this. This comes out in an equitable, that each municipality has, and I think it's been good in it, each municipality has agreed with DEP. They've signed a consent order that they would control the overflow or the flows from their municipalities within the parameters of the capacity of the plant. So if each municipality does what it has promised in the consent order to do, we would have no further enlargement or difficulties with the plant. The plant has the capacity to deal with the sanitary product that is produced in these 20 municipalities. No plant has the capacity to deal with rainwater infiltration. And each of the 20 municipalities has basically agreed that they would control and keep those flows within the parameters that actually are determined by the capacity of the plant. And they're well within DEP's capacity as well, or their specifications as well.
You want us to wait to get questions until you finish, or how do you go?
No, now how they achieve this is basically
we have no, JRA has nothing to do with this. I mean, how each municipality chooses to arrive at that number, chooses to arrive at the 625 gallons per EBU, that they have agreed on in their consent order, how they achieve that basically is between them, is their own decision, and then they basically have to comply with the consent order, but if one chooses to do it one way and another municipality chooses another way, whatever their process they choose is their choice. We have no police powers over them. We simply we're only in a position where we're saying, look, if each municipality keeps its word and follows the consent order that they have agreed to with the DEP, then we are going to be fine as far as the eliminating of the infiltration into the overflows into the river. It's becoming an issue more and more, because it's becoming an issue across the country, but it's becoming an issue more. We have to realize too, we're very fortunate, Johnstown is fortunate from the standpoint that it doesn't really have anyone upstream from us. Whereas you take a community like Salzburg, they get their drinking water out of the Conemaugh River. So when Johnstown decides to start dumping sewage into the Conemaugh River, we have to notify them so that they can get their clothing products and everything and try to deal with what we're sending down there. So it is important. But I think each of the municipalities has agreed in a consent order form, so it's not just a verbal agreement, it's not just, I promise, I think we'll do this or that. They have agreed in the consent order, and all of the consent orders basically run concurrently. So they would, ours, the JRAs, the city of Johnstown, and all of the municipalities are all concurrent consent orders. So they basically would all meet at the same point, and that would be, the date that we have to eliminate the overflows. And we would be, I see no real problem with accomplishing that.
Monsignor, I think when we have our workshops with these, and you guys have your workshops with these, I would like to have a workshop with you and us and Eads, because your stuff overlaps with ours overlaps with yours, but I think it's probably good if we have a workshop with both groups and Eads, so we can sort of see where everything's at with respect to your plan and what we're doing with the city. Because some things, even in conversation with the sewer questions, somebody will say, well, that's the redevelopment authority's line, or that's our line, and that's the redevelopment authority's line. So I think there's some confusion as far.
Well, there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's all accidental either. I mean, the interceptors, are the only thing that the JRA is responsible for.
Yeah, but I
They're
mean, I
not
think it's.
responsible for the collection lines of any municipality.
Can we schedule a joint meeting then with them? Would that be okay?
But there's not as much overlap as we get into a position where we agreed to this years back that in the event the JRA had to replace an interceptor, and we were going to have to do something that would affect the city's collection lines, our point was, let's do it, and then we'll share that, then the city would, we'll help one another out, rather than we can dig the road up, we can make repairs, and we can cover it back up, and then you have to come along and dig it back up again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got a cooperative effort going on that, and we've been pretty careful about, trying to keep the cost down as much as possible, but sure,
Okay, and I have another question here, and it's more criticism. Okay, your billing statement, the late notices and whatnot, I think we probably should have known about that. I mean, I didn't know anything about it until I get people calling, screaming, and yelling at me. Why are we doing this? We didn't do it. I didn't even know about this until I investigated it.
well, people are hollering at me about paving streets.
Well, but what I'm saying is this was an action you guys took. So I think as a courtesy to the city, because it affected our customers too, we should have been aware of it and had some, and I don't want to say input because that's your collection system and however you want to do it, but I think a little feedback from us to say 10 days late is a little extreme because some people, they lose their little card and next thing you know, they get the next bill and they're charged $50. I've done it myself. I lose the bill and the whatever, and I catch, I pay the penalty $1.25 or whatever the heck
Well,
it is.
if you look at the billing schedule for the city of Johnstown, RDM, and JRA, we give the longest time. We give the most, we give actually almost 7 full weeks pay before there's any kind of charges.
I understand that, but
And
what I'm
that's more
saying
time
is,
than the city gives or RDM gives.
right, but we don't slap somebody with a $50, penalty. I think that was a little extreme. I mean, I'm all for collecting for people that don't pay their bills, but I think you need to have a little bit of, and again, hindsight's 20/20. I think you should have probably let us know and let us know you were doing this, but also maybe not be so extreme to the extremes. I think after 3 months, yeah, of course, go after somebody who's delinquent. I don't have a problem with that, but I think 10
The
days.
city's in a different situation because the city, your fees go toward the maintenance of a pipe.
Uh-huh.
JRA's fees goes toward the maintenance of the operation of that plant with their 15 employees, where there are utilities, where there's machinery, where we have to constantly be. We don't have quite leeway that, I mean,
Well, we
we've
should
got
have
a lot.
known.
Pardon?
We should have known. We should have known, we should have had some heads up that this was gonna happen, because I think some of these people were, I mean, they're embarrassed. Some of these people have never been late on a bill in their life, and they get a $50, late fee that they have to pay, and they don't have the $50. It's like, what did I do? I was just, a few days late.
Can I ask a
I don't want a
question?
few days late, I mean.
Well,
if you're
I'm just
a few
saying that I
days-
think it's,
No, if you took from the date that the bill is sent, they have 7 weeks. And it's printed on the bill.
yeah, but I'm just saying, some of these people were just late. I mean, I missed a month because I lose the bill. Would I have gotten a $50 bill?
It's
Probably.
printed on the bill when that takes effect. If you ignore it beyond 7 weeks, then we have to begin the process of
Then why are these people
collection.
getting late fees after so many days? I don't understand. I mean, I saw the bills, I saw the notices, I was clueless as to what this whole thing was, and I think you guys should have told us about this. That's all. That's one of the things I'm saying. How you manage your business over there,
We're dealing with 20
How was the
minutes.
decision made? I see the inequity of the $50 charge. So if I'm late with a $10 bill, I pay $50. If I'm late with $500, I pay $50. Isn't it more equitable to do a percentage, or is that on top of a percentage you're charging $50? $50 is a lot of money if I only owe $10 or $20.
It's the
I'm paying
process-
$70.
It's the process that you force us to begin. We have to.
Understandable.
It's the process.
But do you think there's
It's to say
fairness
that
in
what-
$20 paying $50?
No, but my point is that we start a process where we have to draw the information out of the computer. It has to be sorted into net. Now, these are the delinquents. The other 22,000 people paid their bill on time. So now these have to be drawn out. They have to be separated into neighborhoods, into bundled, into streets and everything else. Then we have to hire then to go out and post that. We have to begin that process.
Don't you think you would have even cut your losses of delinquent if you would have advertised that you're going to be doing this? And next month, we are going to be implementing this plan. If you would have got to the media, however you want to do it, and just say, next month, we're doing this, give people a
As far as
chance.
equitable though, I mean, our problem is that once we begin this process, okay, we begin incurring costs.
Yeah, but
And my
letting
point,
somebody
but
know
well,
that-
but wait, but my point is that we shouldn't pass the cost on to the people that have paid their bill on time.
Then they would ignore it though. I mean, if I saw this notice and said, oh, they're gonna
See,
implement this plan.
you do that.
Yeah.
You don't charge any.
No, me.
But
Once a
let's
year.
face it, if somebody is going out and posting houses for the city of Johnstown, somebody is paying them.
No, but what I'm saying is, you're not
So
following me.
that rate is being passed on to everyone.
I
You're
think
not
we're not
following me.
arguing
Change
to
the
it.
billing
Wait.
practice.
Pardon me?
Didn't you change the practice now from the article I read in the paper? You changed that practice
Be
of.
ruled out.
Well, we're trying to,
With
if
the
someone,
customers
you
and
know,
that?
sometimes, it's one thing if someone has lost the bill of it and there was a mistake and they have a record of basically being on time, we're forgiving that. Or if there was something one time, we'll forgive it.
But it took
Or-
this point though. That's the thing. It took a dramatic upheaval of these people. I saw the lines.
We
I
were
saw-
doing that before.
Yeah, but I
We
saw
were
the
doing that
lines.
before. No,
you
we
know.
were doing that before. We were
Council.
doing that before.
Yeah, we have a lot of delinquent accounts, there were 1,600. Let me tell you one story that might explain this better. There was a gentleman who's a very intelligent man. He had income properties in the city. He ran into Mr. Metzke complaining about this. He says, I always pay my bills. I pay my bills. I just pay 4 months late. I always pay 4 months late. We're running a business,
I
We have a
agree.
fiduciary responsibility to
Mark,
run
I
a business.
understand that, but what I'm saying is a little bit of heads up. If you probably would have cut down your expenses of even hiring somebody to put those door hangers on if you would have given advance notice and say, next month, we are cracking down on our delinquents. If you have a delinquent bill, get it paid, otherwise you're gonna pay a $50, whatever, And,
All this
whatever.
information was printed on the bill, okay? This information was printed on the
Nobody
bill.
reads that, they look at the dollar amount.
Well, so what kind of heads up do I have to do?
I mean,
what do
give
you
them,
want?
get the media.
Sure, well, at the regional authority of the JR, you set your policies and procedures, right? You don't owe us any explanation. Now, you do owe the customers, right? But you don't have to substantiate to this council what you do.
The JRA has, we have 20
So
different
funny.
municipalities to deal with, okay? So, I mean, we would have to notify each municipality and get input from each municipality. We've done what I think is fair to everybody. My main concern was that we're not gonna pass the cost of collection of delinquents on to those people that have been fair and have paid their bills on
I
time.
like that.
That's true.
Now, that's not, that, okay, you agree?
I agree, and I
Okay,
guess,
well
I
then
don't think,
maybe, okay, but now someone is paying your people to go out when you post a fraud. And you don't have any extra fee, so somebody's paying that.
Chairman, why didn't you just do a percentage? If I'm, the example
Because
I'm
it's a
giving,
transaction.
$20, I'm paying a 250% penalty by paying $50.
Because it's a
If
transaction.
I have a $250, I'm getting a smaller penalty, so the inadequacy of the two is just,
No, because you can't do that, you can't do that,
because of the billing system?
No, the transaction costs you the same. If you have to go through the process, like of collecting a delinquent bill, whether you're collecting
So you're saying the
$20
process
or
cost.
whether you're collecting $500, you still have to go through the same process. You have to hire, you have to draw this information out, you have to hire the man, you've got to print the things up, you have to send these men out to the door. Now, when he puts that on the door, whether he's saying this is a $20 delinquency or a $200 delinquency, you've incurred the same cost.
well, I mean, okay, I understand that. We could address people when they call us and they come to us, because honestly, I had no clue that this was going on until my phone started going crazy, what the heck's going on, because they think it's us.
And
And
the
not us.
other piece of that too, Mrs. Mock, is the support I think needed to be given to your clerical and your frontline people over there. Because people were ripping them and you know what, and just ripping into them and they didn't have answers for it, et cetera. So I can agree with Mrs. Mock, there should be some forewarning. We were getting screams at City Hall, but we could say that's JRA. But your young ladies that were working in there, they became, I won't say rude, but they became very frustrated dealing with these problems and were short of not being very kind to the consumer and customer.
Yeah. If I would have any, if I have any regrets in the thing, my regrets is that we let it go too long.
True.
We should have done it sooner.
I bet you
wouldn't
won't have
change
to do it
I
again.
wouldn't change the process. But when you let someone go 3, 4, 5 months, and you keep thinking maybe finally they'll come around, and then they simply don't. And we give, again, the JRA gives more time for a person to pay their sewage bill than either the city does on its sewer bill or that RDM does on the water bill. We give more time.
How much
And
money have
maybe
you,
we've given too much time. Maybe we should just go and flip the thing back closer to when we done.
But don't you think the front line should have gotten more support? The young ladies up there really got beat up,
I
not physically,
don't
but
know.
mentally and.
You know,
how much have you recouped?
I think you've explained your position, okay? For what I accept. Moving on. For years, way back, has always been where the redevelopment authority and the city do work together, okay? And at some point, I know firsthand, you get money that's due to the redevelopment authority or due to the city, okay? What is the status now? Does the city owe the redevelopment authority money? Vice versa, does the redevelopment authority owe the city?
as far as I know, the redevelopment authority does not owe the city anything. The city does owe us funds for the cooperative things of when we go in.
What amounts are they?
I understand that there was a payment made. All right, so there was a $150,000 payment, so there would be a $450,000 balance.
The city owes $450,000.
So we paid for work that the city promised to reimburse us.
Do you have any idea over what period of time that $450,000, how long the city's owed it, or, what's
Well, the one invoice went out in 2014.
14? This is for these cooperative.
Who's the
Mr. Park, can you give an explanation? Have you received any explanation from the solicitors, or have you made inquiry why JRA is not getting paid?
Well, we are getting paid. We received a payment just this past week.
Okay.
We're comfortable that the city has a plan to pay us.
What, the 450? I misunderstand. That's from 2000.
Part of it was from 2014. The last bill that was, I think the last invoice that went out was for the completion of one portion of this project. Brought basically the total to $600,000, okay? I brought this to some, we brought to their attention, et cetera, and from what I was told, we were going to send a check for $150,000.
Again, like confused, you're still delinquent. Maybe that's a long term. We're still
I don't use that term because Marie Moss will get, still want us to impose a penalty on it. We should know, what percentage should we impose on that bill?
Small.
Yeah, I mean, if we impose a percentage on the $650,000 delinquency, I think maybe we have a problem.
I can't understand why the city didn't invest and everything else are gone down. Why the city would not be able to pay JR or anybody else when these funds are due.
That's true, but remember when the city was using those funds to balance the general fund for years instead of putting them where they
Well,
belong?
no, this was.
But that's a fact.
No, this was a late,
So is this money that the city's getting from funds and then reimburses the JRA? Is that
these are
always-
bills that the
They would come out of your general sewer revenues, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a pass.
There's 4 projects, things finished, paid for, and the city was to reimburse us for that.
It's
So-
a moving target, basically, it's sort of.
Pardon me?
It's a moving target as we go through the source system process of
Well,
rehabbing.
It saves the city, in most cases, it saves the city a lot of money, and in some situations, it might help us. If the city were to repair or replace a collection line, and they were to see a problem in one of our interceptors or a bad connection, then there's some, then we don't do the same thing completely twice. We don't.
Can we, if John, I'd like to see, can we see what the city does owe you for a given period of time, what you may or may not consider delinquent? I know you said that they're paying.
Yeah.
But I'd like an explanation why, not from you, but from the city, when we're drawing Penvest funds down to pay the guys digging the street up or do anything else, why they're not doing the same thing to pay.
But this has to be paid from sewer revenues. The Penvest money is dedicated to something, a specific project.
Yeah, but I assume this cooperative agreement would possibly tie into one of those specific projects.
No. And we do we have some projects, some sewer projects we do just out of our revenues. The city has some project it does just out of its revenues. Generally smaller projects,
But we may,
The big projects have to be funded, but the smaller projects you try to do out of your revenues so you don't have borrowing expenses. We do the same thing.
I think what does happen, though, that what Jack is saying is right, because what does happen sometimes is we will have a Penvest project. We start this project, and this project says replace this manhole. Well, there's a problem with a collection line. So even though it's not in the Penvest, we go ahead and have the contractor repair that collector, and then we proceed with that. So we have to pay that, we paid for it from our funds. okay?
And then reimburse through.
Then the city will reimburse us, or we can just cover it up, and then the city has to dig it back up.
It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Question.
We can find out. I'd like to, don't want to do a right to know. Okay, find
No,
out
no,
what-
no, you don't have to do right to know, we'll tell you.
Is this normal practice though? Is this normal business with the SOAR? When
The
you
city
do
not
this?
paying their bills?
No,
Cooperative
no.
agreements.
The cooperative agreements.
Yes, and the city has cooperative agreements with the Johnstown Water Authority for
The same thing.
kind of thing, yeah.
Okay.
And it saves money and it doesn't rip up newly paved
I'm not
roads.
arguing that point, I'm arguing that we're incurring a debt.
Well, that project is now in. We had an actual written contract with that. That project has ended. The final bill went out at the end of 2015. And I think you asked that question. When did the final bill go out? Final bill went out at the end of 2015.
So we're on a payment plan right now, is basically what
We
we said.
said that we should be able to, at this point, to take care of it by the end of the year.
Okay.
I have
Are
a
you building up?
Very
question.
reasonable, yeah.
Are these being billed as the projects are completed?
Yeah, and then there was,
We have to rely on each, because when we finish the project, then we get the invoice as to what, okay, Canvas pays a certain, they pay the very specifics of that project. The extras that we have to pay, we go ahead and pay, and then they invoice the city. We get an invoice like that, which basically then goes to the city and says, all right, this is what we've done. And it's all done, I mean, you're aware of what we're doing. Okay, same thing would be in the same situation, if you did something and there was some repair to one of our units or our intercept or something, you let us know, we said, we agreed to this, you go ahead, you repair it, we'll reimburse you, whatever it's going to
Just
cost.
to go back years, I mean, I understand from prior service where there's times when the city would owe you guys money and vice versa. Not saying what it was for, but sometimes there was a delay and someone didn't pay or something, but this is our.
The cost of the bill, I guess.
Would you make
Two
comments?
Sure.
Every
I
member of council
have a
gets
question. This may not be a question for you to answer, but according to the total amount that the city owes, your company was the $600,000, and right now, with the first payment that we made, the last invoice brings it to $450,000 that the city owes you. And to understand what was said, that money is going to be paid to JRA through the sewer rental fees. And I'm just kind of unclear because the sewer rental fees were just raised to $55, and all that money was to be going to paving the road. I didn't hear anything about taking that sewer rental increase and sending it to the JRA. But
Well, you're
after-
not sending
no,
it,
that
you're
has
not
no-
sending it to the JRA, you're paying the bill.
There's a project on Franklin in 2014. But where's the money coming from to pay them? Did they just say from the sewer rental fees?
Which pays for all the projects,
It pays for everything.
pays for everything, not just the.
This is just another sewage project, okay, this is another part. All we did part of it for the city now reimburses what we paid for.
It's part of the big project.
It's part of your whole project, though, part of the
There's
same.
nothing sinister here. I mean, this is just normal practice. Bill,
It's
explain,
not like we
please.
owe, as the projects are completed, money comes.
Bottom line is the money is due somebody.
Jack understands it.
Oh, Mrs. Stanton doesn't.
There are all these lines to be fixed, you understand, all over the city. And for one particular line, it's a line owned by the redevelopment authority, but the city has all these collection lines coming into it. We entered an agreement and said, we will have our contractor fix your collection lines coming in while we have it dug up. Here are the prices that the contractor quoted us. Does the city, if the city agrees to reimburse us, and we had to put those prices in the bid. So we had bid prices for that work. If the city wants us to have our contractor do this collection work for you, so that we say paving, you also say you have no engineering, you have zero engineering costs on it, which is a big deal. If you want us to do that, go ahead and do that, and that contract was approved back in 2014 between the city and the redevelopment authority. It's a short-lived contract, but it was approved back then, and we agreed to do that. As I understand it, one bill was sent out early, one bill was sent out very late. And
Well, there were three invoices.
Three.
Okay. The first invoice went out on the project, and as far as I understand, they were paid. The second invoice was sent out in 2014, and that one wasn't paid. And then the last invoice was sent out, I think, in March or April, and that.
So the sewer fund is a big bucket that all the money goes in, and then the expense, the sewer
That's when you got
fund,
the
our sewer fund.
150,000 payment from the last invoice.
I'm not sure.
a couple months after the last invoice.
Right.
But only a couple months.
Okay, the bottom line is that, well, of course, there is money that is in question to do, GRA, from the city.
But she knows about that, Mrs. Kumar is aware of that.
But there's also money owed to
There's money owed to
construction
every
companies, to
single
other
project
things
that's
too.
going on.
We've already.
That we-
Oh, you have other things.
Yeah, so it's not just we owe you money, it's for all the projects we have going on, as the money comes in, we pay it out.
2014.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
2014 is a true issue, there's no doubt. But what, 2014 is an issue, but as soon as it was brought to my attention, I received a phone call.
Yes, that's what I've been trying.
We received very quick satisfaction when we brought it up.
So it's been taken care of.
And the budget, whatever's left is.
And we hope to get the other
budgeted
pay, we still were waiting for the other payments, but
You better hurry if you listen to the last meeting when Wesson was here, it's like,
Well, that's not the
The
sewage
controller
rates.
says he did, you gotta check.
It was that, 100%.
okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you can get into this, I don't know if it's, I don't know, planning or whatever, but the Rosedale area up there, there was a business that was going to be locating up in, back in there.
Yeah, could I speak to that one second? But, yeah, Rosedale has been one of my drive projects to get that on the market. There's some infrastructure work that needs done. We presented with Rick, with the help of our consultant, Rick Tricello, before Frank Dietor left the building, an extensive request for funding of infrastructure from DCD. We have not heard from them yet.
Is that what's holding up the company that was going to relocate?
No, they're gonna have an announcement. If you're talking about Aspen, they'll have an announcement.
No.
If they have somebody else,
Down there, the plant down by.
You're talking
Quaker
Quaker
Yeah,
Sales.
I didn't want to say that if you did. Are they going to be, I mean, is it?
We haven't heard anything definite. We don't know any more, we have no more definite word on that than anything.
it's been a couple months.
Since they've, yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. I
Chairman, you mentioned Aspen. Can we have an update? Because I know we
I-
sat here
they're
about
gonna
3
have-
years
I'm
ago.
pretty sure they're gonna make an announcement here shortly, within the next couple of weeks.
Can you give us an inkling this is something
I'd rather
positive?
it's positive, okay, it's positive, but I'd rather they give you the details. But I think you'll be happy with it.
Good.
And Aspen is not part of the Rosedale site, it's a separate
Right,
parcel.
the Aspen lease is actually outside the KOZ.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's down below, the KOZ is up above.
I had another
And we didn't
concern.
move it, so that wasn't part of the KOZ zone, it just slipped through?
It never was.
Yeah, we never did that portion.
We had the upper part was the Wareyard and Rosedale sites were all KOZ zones, but we never had tried to extend it farther down.
And I'd like to thank all of you for working on the project. We have an Upper Main Street removal from there, moving forward the city with some of the jiggers.
Pardon me?
We'd like to thank you for the working with us on the property up there, Main Street, Village.
Yeah,
Making that possible.
I mean, we'll do whatever we can, and I'm reluctant, it's just cautious, because that's the last piece of developable land, I think, that we really have in our hands right now, and I didn't want to turn it into just land. But it,
Worked out, I think, well.
and if we can help, and what we've done, and we're still not finished with the final grading and everything of it, but we did come to an agreement, Tuesday morning, I came to an agreement with the people up there, what they would do to finish it and all that, and if we can help someone like that, where we can make a difference, then we're happy.
No,
to
that
do
was
it.
appreciated, very much so.
I had a
Win-win.
question
sorry.
here. I live on Stell Street, and Stell Street, when the sewage lines were put in, that was a Johnstown Redevelopment Authority project. The sidewalks were dug up in order to put the laterals from the street to where the people's line begins. The sidewalks have been all cracked, and I have pictures here, and I've been bringing them up at council meetings, maybe past 3 council meetings. The people on Stell Street are just wondering when somebody might come to remedy their sidewalks.
See, that's another one, I think where there is a combination thing there, because South Street, we don't have any laterals as such, but, I'll ask them about, honestly, all I could really do would be to ask East about what exactly, where it is and what's what, and, I'll try to look into it.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I just don't know what,
That's going pretty much up the city part of Stell Street, and I think the last meeting that Andy Jaborko was here, and he was supposed to check into it.
and is it an interceptor or is it a collection line?
As far as I was told at the one council meeting, I don't know who said it, was you, Mrs. Comar, or maybe a member of Eads, said that was a redevelopment authority project. The city didn't have anything to do with it, so they did
Alright.
the whole line on Stell Street.
Okay.
That's the one concern I have. Also, on Washholder Street, project that was put in by the state many years ago, and I just remember last year talking with the former manager, Mr. Gumby. He said to get that cleaned out, the city usually calls the redevelopment authority, they go and clean it out, and you guys split the bill, the city splits the bill with you. So I'm wondering when this would be.
No, we don't, no.
That was from what I was told, before.
In the past, Frank Dettori acted as the city's agent. The city has a contract with Department of General Services and the municipalities that those extend into, and it requires the city to clean those flood projects out. It was a condition when the flood projects were put in the early 1980s.
And the city receives something from the state for maintaining it.
I'm not sure, because that's the city side, and I don't know the city side.
One time it's called DPR budget, but I think somehow or other they added that.
But Frank Dettori, he was used to doing that all those years, so he just continued to do that. But he did that as the city's agent before the city. I don't think he charged for his time or anything, but the redevelopment authority never paid to do that. It's not our contract.
Jack, I think the feds had some funding towards that once upon a time too, when Bertha was in there. I think it was almost done either like pro bono or.
I can clear it up for you. When I was working on the city, it goes like that for a collection, and it goes up a little bit above that, and that's where it stops, and then the township picks up the rest. About maybe once every 2 months, I would take a backhoe in there, and I would clean all the debris out as far as
Can
the
we
city
take that
line went.
on the side, Mrs. Stanton? Can you take that on the side, Brian, or in the other room? Or at the end of the meeting, if you
So
it's just hard
I
to
would
hear.
take the backhoe in, and we would clean that up, and that's the same as up on, I think Hirschberg, up in there too. It would come down so far, and that's where the city would maintain it, and we would clean that basin out.
I think the city maintained there on D Street.
D Street
Down
and
below, lumber someplace.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna check. 'cause
And Solomon, at the Solomon Road, above the Solomon
Right, Solomon
Road.
Road.
For years, the city received, I want to say, a DER grant, okay, and it was $100,000, 25,000, and it was dedicated to clean these things out, so it wasn't done.
It's not our,
And Frank contracted for knotweed removal and different things like that, but those bills were always 100% city. Those are city projects, not redevelopment authority projects.
So this
A
is changed.
redevelopment authority employee administered them, and it was part of the way we cooperated together and worked together.
The current program change, right, should be
Yeah, I'll
directed by
pass
the city.
pictures down here, 'cause I know on the website for the redevelopment authority, it says the redevelopment authority is responsible for the cleanup maintenance of these flood protection.
well, not every
Yeah.
one of them.
Well, Cheney Run, I
We
believe,
acted
is
as the city's
specifically
agent.
I
mentioned.
mean, we were doing, yeah, but I don't know if we were responsible for it. We were doing the thing. I mean, we were trying to take care of them.
I think they said
And
on
I
the
think, I
website,
agree
it
with
says
Ted.
the
Let's get down to
redevelopment
who's,
authority.
because maybe sometimes, clear understanding makes for good friends. So we should have a clear understanding of what we're doing as a help.
And maybe even the solicitor. could get together.
Absolutely.
And spend a lot of time. Again, I agree, I think it's the city's
Well,
responsibility.
I can remember specifically the contract covering Solomon Run with Stony Creek Township and the city. When that project was put in, the redevelopment authority helped administer the construction contract as the city's agent. We never owned those, the easements all went to the city. There's a written, at least on the Solomon Run one, I can see and I can picture in my mind and remember that contract between Stony Creek Township. Stony Creek Township agreed to acquire the property and do those things on condition that the city promised to maintain it. The city promised to maintain property in Stony Creek Township because they didn't want the floodwaters coming down into the city.
Because the city is, if they're receiving funds, okay, the city should be taking care of it now.
I don't think we are though, are we?
Yeah, the funds may have been there. A lot of funding between then and now.
The issue is with or without state funds.
Oh, they have to be maintained because that's what protects the people, so.
Shifting gears here a
Pass
minute.
these papers in so council and everyone at the table can be aware. Cheney Run, I mean, I don't feel that safe. I live not pass it down that way.
There's like, I agree
Mr.
with you,
Vidovich,
Mrs.
if you
Span.
could hand it to the
There's like
redevelopment
6
authority.
different places that the city would go out, it would have to clean, like you said, like for flood protection. So that's what they would do, they would take 1 week, and they would go to all 6 of these different places to clean the creek.
We don't have an employee anymore who does that kind of thing. We don't have, we had the ability, we had a person who was very experienced and knowledgeable about those things. He has since retired. We no longer have an employee who can help you with that. We always cooperate with the city, but we don't have the expertise.
Okay, expertise, we're talking about whose responsibility is it, and it basically will probably end up, you'll find will be the city's responsibility.
There's no question about that.
So who, expertise, who, whatever, the fact is who's responsible for it, I think the city's probably going to find it responsible.
And all I can say about the web statement is, it was, that those web pages were drafted by a former executive director who's no longer with us. And he had a habit of saying he was responsible for
Yeah, because
everything.
I think that's like in the first 2 paragraphs on the website.
And that's my only
Very
answer to you,
misleading.
Mrs.
I think the listeners can find it.
Yeah, let's
work out
go that
just
way.
who-
I have a
who's
let's change the
responsible.
question. I know, particularly my end of town, now I see the construction going on, and there's a lot of work throughout the entire city. But how do we, and how are we, one with the PR, in making construction companies accountable? So when there are things that aren't done right, or issues and things are broken, and I know it started up in Roxbury, I've heard from Mrs. Stanton time throughout the city, most are really cooperative, but it almost sounds like somebody needs to go out and tell persons, this is broke, or we accidentally did this. And a goodwill, and it's not
It starts
happening.
with holding money from their contracts.
Okay. But collectively, we need.
Collecting complaint, standard construction, municipal construction project. You educate people to get them to file little written complaint forms that the engineer keeps, creates a punch list, and withholds money from their request for payment. And if you're entitled to legally withhold 1.5 times the cost of repairing whatever they've done. And if you withhold 1.5 times the cost of the repairs, you'll get the contract.
And where are we at with the quality of the repairs too? Because
That's where this is an inspection issue. We can withhold and then legally.
I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking making the accountability. It's a PR issue, is what it is. It's a public relations issue because we get the calls and have to deal with it.
You can't necessarily expect perfect. And
No,
you know,
no,
you
no,
need to
no.
talk to your solicitor about that. You can't get perfect compliance from a contractor. You can get it reasonable. A court will enforce reasonable compliance by a contractor. And that's working with your engineer and your solicitor to.
And they need to know the time period too. It needs to be out there to the public. If it's not done right the first time, then they need to come back again. I've heard that
You
from
need
you
the
guys.
public to give you written documentation of their complaints so that the engineer has a list to present to the contractor.
So we almost need a person to do that, basically.
Most projects that, the engineer has project inspector, on most projects, you take written complaint forms, you tell the citizens to stop at the construction office and give and ask the inspector to fill out a complaint form.
That's why I was saying that probably it's a good idea to have a joint meeting with the engineer here so we can sort of hash this stuff out. Now, I want to get back to those pictures Mrs. Stanton has taken and is passing around there. I know somebody falls and floods something, there's going to be no question about any resident or any parent or anything figuring out who is going to be responsible and paying what. I mean, I know you guys are all going back and forth on who's responsible or who's cleaning this out or who is paying it. If it's our job, we should do it. If it's your job, you should do it. Somebody gets hurt, some attorney's going to find out whose job it is, and it's too late then. So I think we need to do that now.
Needs to be done. I mean, even that fence that's along the channel there, that's an
Security.
8-foot drop, the channel
Okay,
below.
you know what,
The
I
fence
think
is
you find
broke,
out,
kids
you know
are
what,
playing around it.
I think what you're gonna find is that the city, the city is gonna find out that you're responsible for cleaning these things out. Over the course of the years, when we had people around that we were able to help with it, we just went ahead and did a lot of this. And maybe because we did some of it, they thought we would just keep on doing it. But, I mean, the fact is, it's not our responsibility. We tried to help wherever we could.
Well, I think just communication. If you guys are out there doing
Well,
something.
you have to know your own responsibility.
Well, true, but if you're out there doing something and you see a pile of stuff here, clean it out, and then make a phone call and say, by the way, I took care of that, or we took care of that up there. I just think they're working hand in hand is the best way to do it.
But I think you have
But
to
we
be
have to
aware,
get-
I think you have to be aware of what exactly you're responsible for, and I think you
True,
have to.
I agree.
You have
I
to
100%
monitor
agree.
it, and when you think it needs clean, you have to clean it.
Yeah, but we're not out here.
I mean, we're not in this.
We're not walking Cheney Run. We have 3 employees.
And we have 4 to 5 most afternoons.
I understand that, but I don't
The
want to.
redevelopment authority is not responsible, is that what I'm
Absolutely
Or
not.
that would be the city, so
Years
hopefully
ago-
the city can get together and get this remedied before somebody.
Years ago, we had 85 employees. We had 2 cranes in the island. We had a time period. They used to go out and get these streams in the spring. We knew what was coming with the rain. And those days are gone. You know, and we used to get funded by the state. So like Dave said, he used to go out and do it. I used to do it out there with him with the truck, used to haul the stuff out.
And you know yourself, Cynthia, you know yourself, this is not something that you say, well, we have scheduled maintenance. You have to schedule every time there is a heavy rainstorm. Huh?
And that's what we did.
And if you go a period of time where you have mild rains, you don't have to worry about it. You can have one bad rainstorm and you have to clean it out, and if the next week you have another one, you've got to clean it out again. So it's a question of you have to constantly be watching it and maintaining
Now,
it.
the monitor doesn't matter if you had 85 employees years ago, the problem's there, has to be taken care of. It still could be taken care of if we had the funding.
But I think we should at least try, like the gates, I think those gates,
That's what Real Station Hazard right there, at the bottom of that one gate where it's cemented into the ground, that's all cracked, so that whole gate is going to go cracking down.
Yeah,
The
mine-
neighbors are already reporting that there's small kids playing around there, all they need to do is leave
Have they
it
ever
at
called city hall?
I-
Many of these neighbors have.
that neighbor said they have called and called and called. I've been up there, and I'm sure you're aware that I keep reporting and reporting this, and it just doesn't seem like nothing's been done with it.
Mrs. Stanton, isn't there railroad beams in there, like tilted like that, to keep heavy stuff from coming down in?
What's that again?
Isn't there railroad beams that are like slanted down into the ground at an angle to keep stuff from running down through the line?
There's,
What I'm trying to get is.
you mean
is
the
this-
debris wrap?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
there's a debris
That's what I'm
wrap
saying,
there.
that's a hazard there, you know. You're saying, if that fence is not locked, if a child does fall in or falls on one of those beams,
That's
that
it.
could be very,
And it's an 8-foot drop
Right,
down
right.
into that channel, yes.
Exactly.
All right, we have other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I make a statement here? No,
One at a time.
yeah, no, I'm not as diplomatic as Chairman Paul. I'm learning diplomacy from the chairman. And I do like Councilman Williams' gun. Are you a Glock fan?
What is that?
The weapon you're carrying, are you a Glock fan?
No.
Okay, all right, thanks. I've had a lot of experience in lobbying the state for funds. And the JRA, obviously, that's part of our business. There's 2 things about council that concern me that I think are affecting our image and our ability to, obtain funds from the state, because I think we're getting a reputation. First of all, I want to encourage council to take steps to end the alleged sexual discrimination and harassment perpetuated by councilpersons Williams and Stanton. Local, highly educated working moms who want to make this city and region better, but must not be stopped from serving our taxpayers. Williams and Stanton are once again creating a huge liability for our taxpayers. We may soon have our first female president. Don't let these 2 council people trash the city's image with the alleged hostile working environment that they have gleefully and knowingly created at Johnstown City Hall. Secondly, I think it's adverse to Johnstown City taxpayers for Williams and Stanton to vote against $20 million in hard-fought Penvest grants. I'll leave it at that, I think.
I'll have a comment to respond to that. Can you please elaborate on the sexual harassment and I believe other
Hostile work environment.
hostile work environment? Because I don't see any verification of that. I mean, we could ask every member up here, and I'm sure everybody's full of opinions, But unless something is in black and white,
Yeah.
I don't
Miss
see
Stitt,
anything.
what's
Wait,
black and
excuse
white?
me,
You let her
Mr.
answer you,
Pastor, I'm talking.
Why don't you quit speaking for everybody, Mr. Williams, let him speak.
Can I speak without being interrupted? I let you speak, I didn't agree with what you said, but I have a right to respond to that. I see no documented proof of any sexual harassment of any form. I can't remember all the things that you said there, but there, again, nothing written, nothing documented. And I believe with these false rumors, the allegations, the innuendos that are floating around with Councilman Williams and myself, with making comments to you and I believe to Mrs. Tomore, if anybody has any proof of any harassment and that, please move forward with filing a lawsuit. Okay, because I think there, again, with these false rumors, innuendos, I'm not going to dabble and push on the gossip and that. I'm not into gossip, false rumors and that. I'd rather stick to the facts. Some people choose to get involved with the rumors and that and be a gossip monger, but I won't. And also, for further clarification, along with those rumors and innuendos about the hostile working environment and the harassment, I believe Councilman Williams filed a right to know, and everybody loves Mr. Williams' right to know request, seeking city records of any documentation of any hostile work environment or harassment that was created by, I think this one was on by myself. That right to know response, first the city took a 30-day extension to find the answers. That response came back, I believe, last week. No records exist. So again,
It was verbal.
Okay, could I say something?
again, this is kind of getting into something else. This is a
No,
meeting with
no,
Johnstown
I just like
Redevelopment
to
Authority.
say
I just
something.
wanted to
You choose to leave early, that's your choice, Mr.
respond to
Williams.
that.
Workshop.
Wait,
No,
Jack,
you can go whenever you'd like.
Jack, wait, I
as you
have
always
one,
do.
I have one topic that
I'm
I'd
not
like
going to
to.
sit here and listen to this.
No, I have something that I think that I'd like to talk about.
Sure.
If we can-
Let's shift gears back to why we're here.
This is one, and I need to know where all of you are on it. And this idea of, a few years ago, I proposed to Penvest, possibility of borrowing funds from them, creating a loan thing, then we would lend money to homeowners to be able to repair their laterals. We would then put a rate of about $6 for each thousand that they borrowed on their monthly sewage bill for the next 20 years. But we were still in the ballpark, all right? I was told to stay out of it. That's to stay out of it. Now,
By who?
by the city manager then. Point now becomes, if we are you interested in getting involved in this? I mean, I don't know where to go with it.
We want to work with you guys any way we can to get to the end game.
But I mean,
Certainly be.
Well, yeah, our job's to help the taxpayer.
okay, but my point
and
is,
the ratepayer.
my point is that by creating a thing like this, we can ensure that the repairs are made, which benefits our final project. Plus, it helps the individual homeowners who maybe don't have the $2,000 or $3,000 that they need to go ahead. A lot of people have said, look, I'll give you $18 a month on my bill, but if you keep the $3,000.
I
We
think
would
it's-
literally finance. Now, you think, oh, you were there, that's right. You were there when I brought this up at the DEP, and one of the council members described it as an administrative nightmare, the DEP, right? You were sitting in the same room. I mean, my point is, do we want to pursue this? Because on the one hand, it's like we should do this. Brian Valletti, he's been bugging me about this, that we should be going ahead with this. But it would be available to everyone, to all.
Well, I think if we could
all-
do this, but I'm thinking it might be an administrative nightmare, but there's a way to do it, I'm sure we can work it out.
That's correct.
Well,
That's correct, yes.
Okay, but now here's the fork in the road here. I mean, is the city going to do this?
I don't think we have the staff to do this or to even.
Or do we, now, if we do it, it has to, I have always been fair to all of the municipalities.
Yeah, everybody.
And it has to be fair to all.
So let me ask you, are you willing to take that risk? JRA, there is a risk involved, you know that as well as I do.
Well, there's a risk involved, and then there's a risk on the other end, is that if the final product doesn't work by the end of the consent order,
Yes.
you've got a court order looking at you.
Right.
Okay?
I mean,
Not
you're
only
willing to do
that,
it.
but
I
we
don't-
have to start helping the people.
Absolutely.
We're all in the same boat. So whatever risks are involved, whatever administrative nightmares, let's put that all aside and let's do what, there's a lot of people out there hurting that doesn't know where they're gonna get that $4,000 or $5,000.
Well, here's the
That's a
thing.
great
There's
thought,
one-
let's see a plan.
That's right. And we can develop the plan, but Senior knows he has an incredible capability of getting Penvest and them to listen to the plan. Because we've done the plan, and we are pretty much of a plan for the entire state, possibly the entire country, for what we've done here. It's been painful, and now let's move forward. But
Well, I think we better bring it, we've talked about this a couple of years ago. This is something we better get going here.
I think it's been up and down and shot down.
And that's why,
When they tell me, when I'm told to stay out of it,
Well, that's true.
I mean, that's not exactly a great incentive to run the.
Well, let me ask you this, is
risk.
JRA willing to take this on for all 20, whatever we have,
the
municipalities,
board,
boroughs?
the board has voted unanimously, and we have asked one senior to be the lead person.
How would you want the city to cooperate with you, and what capacity to support or help that? That's
Well,
the
by,
question.
we're gonna try to do whatever we can, we're gonna try to put this together and to see what we can come up with, and I guess that's a little patient.
Where would we get the seed money, Muncie? I'm just being practical, just some basics. Where would we get the seed money to start this, to loan the money, to get it out? Is that through?
Combination of what,
Grants?
maybe, no, well, it might be, I don't know. I was looking at a loan, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't doubt our board's willingness and our everyone senior's desire to seek grants, and he has a good reputation, and Representative Marmon's been very helpful. But I think when you have two council people that flush $20 million of Penvest funds down the toilet, I think that it makes it difficult. And I mean, with all due respect, Monsignor, I don't know if our chairman is a miracle worker. Your councilmen or your council persons are creating a bad reputation in the
Well, you know
state.
what, when we say council, remember, there's 5 of us here that have been very proactive with moving this project forward.
The thing is, once we were told it had to be done, we had no choice, and it became a nightmare. But we're all sitting here in agreement. We have to help the people. These two, it's not gonna be 100%, as you can see.
How can we
If
tie?
it's 80%, that's a good thing, we're on your side.
Yes.
Whatever you do.
Monsignor, how can we tie?
Because you have a program, you have a
That's what I was
program to
gonna
help
bring
people. So I don't want to.
How does that $1,000 fit into the big picture per?
That's the coordination.
Well,
Yeah,
it depends,
well-
some of these structures are, the invoices that are coming through our office, some of them aren't even $1,000, up to $1,500, so it is helping.
Yeah.
We've seen numerous ones in the Woodville area that were between $800 and $1,000, so
Okay.
depending on what's best for the property owners, where we go.
Okay.
But based on that, even
They
at
can't double dip.
$100,000, if you had 100 households and you divide it into $100,000, simple math tells you that there's $1,000 for each homeowner, which could take care of 100 households. This plan here, which we're talking about, is encompassing the whole JRA sewage environment. We're not talking about 100, we're
You're in a
talking about
position to do that,
thousands.
and we aren't.
Yeah.
But there's a different, maybe I'm not smart enough to avoid administrative nightmares, but deciding who's going to get that $1,000 to me is not an enviable position to be in. Who's going to make the decision as to who gets that $1,000?
Well,
It's first come.
That's the
Well,
administrative
they're going
piece.
to, that's the problem is you're going to have 5,000 people qualify.
absolutely.
Now, who's going to decide which 100 are going to get the money?
And Monsignor, how do you
This
go
program,
backwards?
this program is different, okay? This point is, we would provide money at $6 a month per thousand that you borrow.
Have you thought about what I just asked? How do you go backwards?
That's, to me, again, that's
People-
not a problem. If we can get the funds, then I'd say, fine, you did it, you spent $3,000. If you can do that,
But that's a lot of cash to go backwards. is what I'm
You'll
saying.
probably find some people that, are blessed to have that and to let it
What
ride.
bothers me more, Pete, is there are probably people who are hurt by what they had to spend and are scared. I've had people come to me scared to death because they are now down to where they have $500 or $600 in the bank and they're frightened that if something happens to their furnace or their water tank, they're penniless. Now, we can go back and help them, we'll do with whatever we can do, but
Well,
I'm just asking, if there's gonna be opposition from the council, let me know.
Well, I think I can't speak for all of us here, but I think I can tonight say the 5 that are here
Absolutely.
are supportive of this
We can't
project.
do
Any
it.
way we can help
I mean,
people.
but we'll support you, but we don't have the staff to do what we're doing.
And how do we coordinate with you?
For the question as far as going backwards, they would still pay the full amount regardless, whether they borrowed it. If someone had already pressure tested a $3,000 fee, the $3,000 would just be paid back over time. So with the situation that they're.
We would give them their $3,000 and they would get an $18 a month increase on their bill to pay for the next.
So,
to pay back
exactly,
their
it's
month.
different than ours
You
with
guys are made whole
$1,000.
at the end of that.
Exactly.
Pardon?
You guys are made whole at the end of that.
So therefore, they can't approach us because they don't have authority, so we the same.
Yes, Ms. Pasquarelli.
And that would be the decision of the homeowner. If they wanted to participate, fine. If not,
If somebody decides to use it as a tax write-off, if somebody decides to say, well, I'm gonna use this as a tax write-off, fine.
So you're not gonna look at income guidelines or anything like that? This would be
I don't think you
smart
can, I
plan
don't think it's
across the
fair,
board.
because everyone assumes the same liability for this whole program, all 23,000 customers. If we say, well, this is only gonna be limited to a certain few, or in this category or that category, but then if there is a problem, everyone's gonna have to bear the burden of bailing this thing out.
See, our $1,000 is dependent on income. too,
Incorrect.
isn't
It's
it?
only
So-
$1,500.
This wouldn't be.
This would be. So would they duly be eligible? They got 1,000 from, I'm just
Well,
theoretically.
Yeah,
Those are
that's
decisions
what
to
makes
be
me a little bit
talked
nervous
about.
about what you're doing. You're giving the funds out.
Right.
That makes me nervous.
But
What
that's,
I'm,
But that's a fund to be held in place.
yeah, that's our deal, there's guidelines with that, and we work with
Yeah,
that.
this, no, this
If they give 1,000 and it costs 3,000?
yeah.
balance.
I-
Those are
I-
decisions to be made, yes.
I guess what I'm mainly interested in is that it does get done. It is fair, it's equitable to every ratepayer.
Well, council, we're very much in favor of this.
Yes, absolutely.
As a majority vote that's here right now.
We have to.
No, we're not.
Yes.
No, I'm saying as a majority that's here.
Yeah, I'd just like to get back and respond to Mrs. Stanton, even though she's chosen to leave the room. I did have discussions with Mr. Fred Redding from the PABCD about the situation that I referred to in the city of Johnstown, the hostile work environment. He said he was aware of the problems, and he said if any employees have issues, they need to do what Gretchen Carlson did in her lawsuit against the Fox company. So I don't represent any employees, I'm not their legal counsel, and I'm sure that if such employees decide to go to federal court, that all their facts will be made known in federal court. But I don't think it's a poorly kept secret that there's a very hostile environment in Johnstown City Hall. I mean, the state knows it. It's not a surprise, really.
That's up to each individual employee. We can't speak to them, so that's an individual decision to them.
But tonight, the object is a level of cooperation.
Correct.
Yes,
Generally, city
Yes.
council, other issues.
That's certainly appreciated.
Any way we can further help the citizens, I see like Monsignor said, people that just can't afford it, they're barely making payments, food.
People that I'm afraid of are the people who are going to be above the qualification line. If you set $30,000 as an income base and say, well, there's a cutoff point, well, there may be a man who is a single man making $29,000 who's going to be